Prologue. Malkin, Shriver, and Caesarea continue their journey searching for one who remembers, though doubts grow within the tangle. Malkin struggles with fading memories, questioning if they are trapped in a cycle of seeking and failing to find renewal. The group encounters a hostile tangle of serpents who have lost all sense, attacking Malkin viciously. Despite injury and weariness, Malkin insists they must not return south, but remain to seek one who remembers, fearing extinction otherwise. As hope wanes, a dark provider appears overhead, dropping food, offering the struggling tangle a momentary respite from their journey's toll. In Chapter 1, a sentient liveship silently resists Amber's efforts to engage him in conversation. Amber warns him of the Ludlock family's plans to move and possibly dismantle him, expressing her fear that they might separate him from his ship form. She hints at seeking help to prevent this fate, suggesting the Bingtown Traders' Council, though Paragon doubts anyone would speak for him due to his history of drowning past crews. Amber proposes they seek help from others, possibly Althea, but they lack allies. As the night falls, they share a moment over cooking mussels. In Chapter 2, Wintrow struggles with the consequences of saving Kennit, realizing it risks both his life and Vivacia's safety. He confronts his father Kyle, who accuses him of betrayal. Wintrow faces Sadar, who hints at a potential rebellion, but he deflects the pressure to control Vivacia. Meanwhile, Kennit, weakened and in pain, reflects on his reliance on Wintrow as he prepares for surgery. Wintrow, with careful deliberation, discusses the procedure to save Kennit's leg, revealing his inexperience but determination. Their conversation highlights the tense power dynamics and the burden of life-and-death decisions. In Chapter 3, Johnny Cooper searches for her son Rain in the vast, dimly lit crowned rooster chamber. Upon finding him, they discuss the future of the Rainwilds. Rain criticizes their dependence on the satrap and suggests they should expose and restore the ancient city to its former glory, rather than continue plundering it. Johnny disagrees, emphasizing the risks of releasing a possible dragon from the last wizard would log. They clash over the matter, but eventually, Johnny redirects the conversation toward Rain's upcoming trip to Bingtown, where he plans to court Malta Vestrit, bringing gifts to win her favor. In Chapter 4, Wintrow performs an amputation on Kennit, whose leg injury worsens. Despite his hesitation, Wintrow is forced to proceed when he receives better tools, with Etta's help. The procedure is messy and painful, leaving Wintrow deeply shaken, but he completes the task, wrapping Kennit's stump. Meanwhile, a Chalcidian galley appears and Brigg prepares for battle. Wintrow tends to Kennit, who is weak but alive. Later, Vivacia reveals a connection with the white serpent which fed on the severed leg. Wintrow and Vivacia share a bond, and he changes his mindset, hoping for Kennit's survival. In Chapter 5, Althea reflects on her life aboard the Ophelia and struggles with guilt over her role and obsession with reclaiming the Vivaria. She also faces financial challenges and seeks advice from Grag about a deckhand named Fef. Grag proposes marriage to her to secure the family's future, but their conversation is interrupted when a Chalcidian war galley challenges their passage. The Ophelia narrowly avoids a boarding, with the Chalcidian crew threatening firepots. Ophelia responds angrily, using her figurehead to damage the galley, while Althea directs the crew to fight the fire and defend the ship, narrowly escaping a dangerous confrontation. In Chapter 6, Cyrilla is summoned to advise Satrap Cosgo on the Bingtown dispute, focusing on land grants, tariffs, and the slave trade. Despite Cosgo's petulance and resistance, Cyrilla presses for compromises and offers to travel to Bingtown herself. When she mentions his father's promises, Cosgo grows suspicious, threatening her plans. Cyrilla reflects on her complex relationship with Cosgo, remembering his dismissive treatment of his father's heart companions. She holds onto her power through her advisor role, hoping to gain freedom. Eventually, Cosgo agrees to take her to Bingtown, though under the condition she accompanies him to Chalced afterward. In Chapter 7, Malta is introduced to her first suitor, Rain Kupris, but she resents the pressure to marry him. Ronica is concerned about the family's financial troubles, and David Restart, a family friend, arrives, offering his services. Rain's family arrives in grandeur, but Ronica insists on modesty. During the gathering, Ronica reveals her family's strained financial situation, but Yanni Kupris responds kindly, acknowledging the Vestrit's efforts to live within their means. Malta, though initially uncomfortable with Rain's advances, starts to realize the power she holds in the courtship, and decides to use Rain's passion to her advantage. In Chapter 8, Wintrow tends to Kennit, who survives his injuries but rejects help. Etta explains her past and her acceptance of life's harsh realities, which makes Wintrow question his role. Meanwhile, Vivacia shares the overwhelming weight of blood memories, describing the pain of absorbing the identities of countless souls. When the Marietta arrives, Wintrow is summoned to Kennit's side. Kennit, refusing to rest, insists on being seen as a strong leader and orders Wintrow to deliver a message to Sorkor. Kennit cunningly manipulates the situation to buy time for recovery, with Wintrow caught between duty and survival. In Chapter 9, Amber's nightmares about serpents, dragons, and mysterious figures trouble her, while Paragon wonders if they relate to his fate. Amber recalls a past encounter with dragons, though Paragon dismisses them. Althea fears returning to Bingtown due to her family and Vivacia, and Captain Tanira advises her to disguise herself as a boy to avoid danger. In Bingtown, Althea notices the presence of Chalcidian galleys, which the satrap permits to dock. Tanira protests the new tariffs and the Chalcidian ship's presence, vowing to challenge the system and encourage others to follow his example. In Chapter 10, Althea returns to the Vestrit mansion, where she learns of the family's financial ruin and her mother's approval of rain-wild suitors. She plans to meet with her sister Kafria, now the traitor, to discuss resistance against the satrap's rule. Althea encounters Amber, disguised as a slave, in the market, and they head to the Ophelia to assess the ship's damage. Amber offers to repair the scorched wood, discussing her knowledge of intrigues and slavery. Althea shares her concerns about her sister's loyalty to her husband, Kyle, who uses Vivacia in the slave trade. In Chapter 11, Kafria anxiously awaits Althea's return, while Malta grows frustrated with her engagement to Rain. Althea, back in Bingtown, shares her experiences with Amber and Jack, including a rock formation linked to a prophecy. Amber presses Althea about her connection to Paragon and her plans to buy him, which Althea opposes. Amber challenges Bingtown traditions, urging Althea to accept new alliances. Althea returns home to a tense family reunion where she argues with Kafria over the Vivacia. Grandmother intervenes, urging the sisters to put aside their differences for the family's survival, leading to a reluctant truce. In Chapter 12, Brashen grows suspicious of merchant Sincure Faldine, who claims the live ship Vivacia was taken by pirate Captain Kennit. Faldine's story contradicts Brashen's knowledge of live ships, deepening his concern. Meanwhile, Vivacia is being restored, and Wintrow struggles with his growing tension with his father, Kyle, while Sa'adar pressures him to join his cause. Wintrow also navigates his feelings about his tattoo, while Kennit regains confidence, planning to get back on his feet. Brashen, now in Divvytown, spots Vivacia under Kennit's control and wonders what he can do to help Althea and the ship. In Chapter 13, Malkin's Tangle encounters more serpents as they continue their journey. Shriver reflects on their purpose, and Malkin struggles with his leadership, trying to hold on to their mission. They encounter a green serpent who sings a sacred song of beginnings, but despite its beauty, the serpents remain detached. Malkin attempts to revive the green serpent named Teller, and after much effort, Teller remembers his name. The group is then confronted by Kalaro, a larger serpent, who awakens Silic, leading to a tense moment of recognition. The Tangle resolves to stop relying on providers and hunt for the one who remembers. In Chapter 14, Cirilla contemplates her difficult situation aboard the ship. The voyage to Bingtown, once eagerly anticipated, has become unbearable due to the satrap Cosgo's indulgent behavior and the oppressive atmosphere. She struggles with the ongoing debauchery, Cosgo's cruelty, and the growing tension between them. Cirilla's concerns about the trip's dangers, including the Chalcidian noble's manipulations, intensify as Cosgo insists on controlling everything. When he orders her to come closer, Cirilla refuses, challenging his authority. Cosgo threatens to hand her over to the sailors, and in a final act of defiance, Cirilla silently accepts the risk. In Chapter 15, Althea announces her decision to leave for town, creating tension with Ronica and Malta. Brashen arrives with urgent news about the Vivacia, which has been taken by pirates led by Captain Kennit. Althea confronts Malta and urges the family to unite and raise a ransom for the ship. Althea also plans to attend a Bingtown Trader Council meeting to rally support against piracy and the satrap's influence. The family sets aside their quarrels as they realize they must work together to regain the Vivacia. Malta hesitantly reconciles with her family. In Chapter 16, Malta sneaks out to meet Serwyn, hoping to secure her father's freedom, but he offers little affection and promises to help only through the Traitors' Council. Brashen meets Amber near Paragon, where she warns him about the Ludlucks selling the ship and urges him to act. Meanwhile, Malta, troubled by Rain, uses dream powder to sleep, but is consumed by thoughts of him. In a shared dream, Malta asks Rain for help rescuing her father's ship, but he feels powerless. They are interrupted by a dragon in the dream, offering help in exchange for her freedom. In Chapter 17, Kennit captures Captain Kyle Haven and brings him to a secluded island. After Haven attempts to escape and is recaptured, Kennit orders him to be chained in the wine cellar for ransom. Kennit reflects on his past and his plans for revenge while introducing his mother to Ankle, a servant. He discusses the situation with Saadar, who refuses to stay and mocks Kennit's treatment of his mother. Later, Kennit rows back to the ship, dealing with physical pain and Saadar's resentment. The priest eventually attempts to drown him, but is killed by Kennit. In Chapter 19, Althea returns home with a freed slave boy and a shaken David Restart. She discusses her moral stance on slavery, while Kefria reflects on the strained family dynamics. Brashen and Amber suggest using the Paragon to recapture the Vivacia with Brashen as captain, but Althea rejects the plan. Malta proposes calculating costs and support, and Brashen discusses potential crew members, including runaway slaves. Kefria pushes for pragmatism, while Althea insists on joining the crew. Amber warns about the Paragon's unpredictability, and the family plans to convince the Ludlucks to support the mission. In Chapter 20, Kennit orders the pursuit of Captain Avery's ship, the Crosspatch *, capturing it after a violent battle. Despite Wintrow's objections, they inspect the slaves, and Kennit justifies the violence. Meanwhile, Althea, Amber, and Brashen try to convince Paragon to help rescue Vivacia, but Paragon struggles with his identity and loyalty. On the Vivacia *, Kennit plans to ransom the survivors at Divvytown. He shares a vulnerable moment with Etta, revealing the emotional cost of his leadership. Wintrow remains conflicted about his bond with the ship, and Kennit reflects on manipulating Wintrow's future. In Chapter 21, Brashen struggles to restore the Paragon, facing resistance from the ship and crew as he battles his addiction and conflicted feelings for Althea. Amber and Althea help, gradually earning the crew's respect. Tensions rise between Althea and Brashen as he confronts her about her commitment, challenging her desire to settle with Grag. Althea reflects on her feelings for Brashen, admitting she misses their former camaraderie. Clef assists with ship tasks, and Amber encourages Althea to reconnect with Brashen. Althea's internal conflict between duty and her longing for independence intensifies as resources dwindle. In Chapter 22, Vivacia embraces piracy by attacking a slave ship, clashing with Wintrow's disapproval. Recognizing Vivacia's potential, Kennit orders Wintrow to teach Etta to read, intensifying tensions between them as Etta's status rises. After capturing the ship, Kennit ruthlessly kills a cook who claims knowledge of hidden treasure, showing his merciless ambition. He then transfers the enslaved people to Vivacia, escalating the trio's uneasy alliance. Meanwhile, Althea confronts Grag over his protective views after her relationship with Brashen, realizing their differences and ending their relationship. She leaves, understanding they could never reconcile their divergent beliefs. In Chapter 23, Cyrilla suffers abuse and isolation in the ship captain's cabin, where she uncovers maps and documents suggesting the satrap's deeper involvement in political schemes. When finally returned to the satrap, now weakened and sick, she seizes the opportunity to assert control. Recognizing his vulnerability, she drafts a document to establish herself as his envoy to Bingtown, using his weakened state to her advantage. She subtly plots to prolong his illness, ensuring he remains dependent on her until they reach Bingtown, where she plans to break free and redefine her future after her traumatic ordeal. In Chapter 24, Malkin and his Tangle encounter Drakius, a silver creature with ancient memories of transformation and enslavement. Drakius reveals he was once a live ship, forcibly reshaped by others, his true self hidden beneath layers of foreign memories. He begs Malkin to end his existence, fearing a return to captivity. Malkin reluctantly agrees, and they consume Drakius' essence, gaining fragments of his memories. These visions offer glimpses of a lost past, filling the serpents with awe and sorrow, yet deepening their mystery. Malkin resolves to continue the search for understanding, despite the bleak insights into their fate. In Chapter 25, Brashen and his team struggle to refloat Paragon, a volatile wizardwood ship. Brashen manages the tense operation as Amber and Althea assist, working to stabilize Paragon's mood and avoid violent outbursts. Despite the initial instability, Paragon gradually adjusts to the water, feeling triumph yet also bitter resentment. Amber and Clef try to console Paragon, while Althea and Brashen worry about his unpredictable nature but believe he must be treated like any other live ship. Brashen, determined to lead as Paragon's captain, finds support in Althea, setting the foundation for their shared goal of recovering the ship Vivacia. In Chapter 26, Malta feels disappointed at the summer ball, burdened by the absence of her father and a poor gown. She contemplates her family's sacrifices. Meanwhile, Althea faces growing tensions aboard Paragon *, struggling with crew dynamics, especially with the newly hired Lavoy and crew member Jack. Rain uncovers an old map that hints at a lost city upriver, fueling his obsession with a dragon log he believes holds power. His family forbids him from pursuing it, but Rain demands independence and an allowance. Meanwhile, Paragon grapples with his blindness and considers drastic changes to regain sight, challenging Amber's discomfort with Wizardwood's power. In Chapter 27, Kennit continues consolidating his power over pirate territories, earning loyalty through generous gestures. Vivacia admires him, unaware of his manipulations. Wintrow, conflicted about his growing attraction to Etta and his discomfort with Kennit's methods, teaches her to read. Etta expresses admiration for Kennit, and Wintrow acknowledges her strength. Meanwhile, Kennit oversees the spoils from their latest raids, savoring their success. He indulges Etta's request to teach her poetry, and hints at his plans to manipulate Wintrow's relationship with her. Later, Etta privately trains Wintrow in knife fighting, a lesson Kennit suggested to prepare him for life aboard ship. In Chapter 28, the Paragon is ready for departure, though Althea, Brashen, and Amber are concerned about the ship's condition and crew. Althea worries about hidden slaves, and Malta observes her father, David, becoming more distant. Amber gives Malta cryptic advice. When Malta faints, she experiences a terrifying vision of being caught between two forces. Upon regaining consciousness, Malta pretends to have fainted from the excitement, but her behavior raises suspicion. As the ship sets sail, Kafria is emotional, watching her daughter's conflicted reaction. Paragon departs with the figurehead declaring, "I fly again," as the crew cheers. In Chapter 29, Cirilla plans to present herself as the Satrap's official envoy, hoping to secure Bingtown's assistance as they face a potential Chalcedene invasion. As the ships approach, Bingtown braces for an attack. Vestrit and her family prepare to defend the town, while Rain Tenira struggles with his conflicted feelings toward Malta. Grag reflects on his duty and past choices, comparing himself to Brashentrell, who abandoned his family for freedom. Meanwhile, Rain contemplates his curse, plagued by dreams of dragons and a growing unease on the Kendry, fearing its ancient dragon spirit might awaken. In Chapter 30, Althea struggles with her leadership, particularly Hoff's defiance, while Kennit's crew arrives at the ruined Divvytown. The survivors are eerily silent, and Kennit feels uneasy. He finds Alyssum among them, and tensions rise as they accuse him of causing their downfall. A fight breaks out, and Kennit's crew narrowly defeats the mob. Kennit decides to leave the town, and Wintrow criticizes the survivors for not acting sooner. As Kennit reflects on his role, he realizes Wintrow is his prophet, reinforcing his belief in his destiny to become king of the Pirate Isles. In Chapter 31, Malta struggles with her emotional turmoil and the overwhelming changes in her life, confiding in Kafria, who assures her the summer ball will lift her spirits. Meanwhile, Cirilla contemplates her position in Bingtown's shifting power dynamics. Malta anxiously prepares for the ball, while Dello, now grown, reconnects with her. David Restart, reflecting on his ambitions, believes his marriage to Malta will restore his social standing with the Bingtown traders and secure his future. His plan involves introducing Malta to the Satrap, envisioning a wedding that will forever link Bingtown and Jamalia. In Chapter 32, Malta is humiliated by David Restart's pressure to engage with the Satrap, who mocks her father. After an argument with Rain, Malta dances with Sir Wintrow, but is devastated to see Rain with another woman. Rain uncovers a plot to kill the Satrap, threatening Bingtown's future. The family leaves the ball early, fearing unrest, but their coach is attacked by highwaymen. During the chaos, David Restart is killed. Amid the wreckage, Ronica and Keffria search for Malta. After a tense search, Keffria finds Malta alive, though shaken, and breathes a sigh of relief. In Chapter 33, Kennit plans for Divvytown and reflects on his childhood, while Etta helps Wintrow cope with the aftermath of killing. Kennit manipulates both of them to assert control. Althea confronts Artu, who challenges her authority, but she defeats him. Later, a serpent attack causes chaos, and Althea saves Hobb. Rain abducts Malta, claiming her as payment for a debt, leaving Keffria in despair. Althea deals with Brashen's criticism, while both wrestle with unspoken emotions. Brashen tends to Althea's injuries, and they share a brief, poignant moment of closeness before she leaves. In Chapter 34, Wintrow endures immense pain while freeing a serpent from a fissure on Treasure Beach, establishing a painful connection before it flees. Meanwhile, Kennit and Etta search for him, fighting dangerous others. The serpent attacks the creatures, allowing Wintrow to stand and fight. Kennit, commanding the serpent, helps Wintrow escape through a violent storm to the Vivacia. Wintrow, gravely injured, is cared for on board. Later, Etta presents Kennit with a mysterious baby with a serpentine tail found in her boot. Kennit suggests they both know the significance of the baby. In Chapter 35, Malta and Rain discuss the unrest in Bingtown and its political turmoil. Rain apologizes for his past actions, and Malta forgives him. Keffria Vestrit proposes a plan to use the satrap's survival to gain support and expose traitors, suggesting a deal involving her liveship, Vivacia. Meanwhile, Malta faces personal struggles as she follows her brother Selden through the city's dangerous paths. They explore hidden tunnels, where Malta uses Jidzin to light the way. She seeks the buried dragon's location, but becomes trapped in the rubble, unsure of how to proceed. In Chapter 36, Malta, cold and injured, navigates a mysterious city guided by music and light. She encounters Tintalia, a dragon who agrees to help if Malta frees her. Malta demands that Tintalia leave Rain alone and rescue her father, Kyle Haven. Meanwhile, Rain, drunk and distressed, worries about Malta's safety, though Johnny reassures him. Malta prepares to release the dragon, using her knowledge of the city's ancient mechanisms. She struggles to open a heavy door, eventually managing to break it free with effort. Amid chaos, she finds the satrap of Jamalia and directs him to safety, despite the city crumbling around them. In Chapter 37, Keffria and Johnny search for Malta, discovering Rain passed out. Meanwhile, Malta leads the satrap and companion through a ruined city but refuses to help further. Rain, upon learning of Malta's disappearance, sets off to find her and rescues Selden, who reveals Malta's search for the Dragon Chamber. Rain, desperate, tries to open a door in the city's ruins, despite the impending collapse. As the city crumbles, he and Selden narrowly escape the rising water. Malta, recovering from the ordeal, eventually finds herself working to guide the satrap and companion back to Trehaug, despite her exhaustion. In Chapter 38, Brashen orders daily combat drills for the crew to prepare for pirate and serpent threats. Amber is tasked with creating a weapon for Paragon against serpents, but warns of possible retaliation. Tensions rise between Brashen and Lavoy, but Brashen asserts his authority. Amber confides in Brashen about her doubts regarding Paragon's eyesight restoration. Meanwhile, Paragon reflects on his identity, revealing a complex self-awareness. Amber encourages him to choose who he wants to be. After a tense moment where Paragon demonstrates his strength, Amber reassures everyone, expressing hope for both herself and Paragon's future. In Chapter 39, Rain, Kupris, and Selden are trapped under a collapsed dome in the Rain Wilds, buried in mud and surrounded by debris. Rain, holding Selden, faces the harsh reality that escape is unlikely. As they wait, the sunlight triggers a strange reaction in the wizardwood log near them, revealing a dragon trapped inside. The dragon, Tintaglia, begins to come to life, absorbing the wizardwood and slowly transforming. Rain and Selden narrowly escape being crushed by the collapsing ceiling and debris. Eventually, Tintaglia frees herself and flies away, leaving hope for their rescue. Rain and Selden attempt to find a way out, believing they might survive. Epilogue. The serpents, led by Malkin, continue their journey toward the cocooning grounds. They struggle against fading memories and the loss of their species' guidance. Some serpents, like Shriver, dream of flying again, but Malkin warns of looming obstacles. The serpents question their fate as they realize many of their kind perished, and others had their memories stolen. As they push forward, Shriver, though crippled, is determined to share her race's ancient knowledge. She follows a silver ship toward the river's mouth, where she hopes to rejoin her kind and impart the vital memories.